What a wedding, huh? I'm glad I went with the duck. My friend told me the goose was like mush. The music was great, the entertainment in general was pretty superb, and I'm glad to see my gift of my favorite brand of handkerchief was used too. Although Laenor didn't look too happy while using it. Welcome all to yet another Bag End production. This was a great edge of your seat type of episode, and there's much to discuss. As always, I'm going to be breaking it all down for you, discussing some differences from the books, some theories from future episodes, and then my thoughts and review at the end. Of course, no spoilers will be given. If you enjoyed this breakdown, then please hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel as I break down House of the Dragon every week. Now enough with the pleasantries, thanks for clicking this, and let's get into the breakdown for episode 5 of House of the Dragon. The episode opens in the Vale, where we finally get to see Lady Rhea. The Vale was shown in the Game of Thrones series, and there's no shortage of milk in this unforgiving terrain. Rhea has been mentioned throughout the show as Daemon's wife, who he clearly has no love for, always referring to her as the bronze bitch, as he does in the book. And it's a shame that she leaves the show as fast as she came into it, as she's on her horseback here just
driving along the road with your family, and you're driving along, la la la, woo, and then all of a sudden,
when she comes across a hooded figure who just so happens to be her husband, Daemon. After a spat between the two, which sadly made me like Rhea for her no-nonsense way of communicating, she realizes why Daemon came all the way here, and by the time she realizes, it was already too late. Daemon most likely did this to gain power, as we see him later in the episode discussing her inheritance, which by marriage laws would go to him. Daemon continues to be this show's wild card, as we don't fully understand his motives and he's always showing up to stir some trouble. In the books, after the rumors of him sleeping with Rhaenyra came out, he was exiled from the kingdom and wanted the Vale as somewhere to live. Whereas here we see him allowed back, he's at the wedding later, albeit with an awkward entrance. In the next scene, we see the king's ship sailing towards Driftmark, and seeing Viserys vomit here is foreshadowing towards his eventual collapse at the end of the episode. The fall of the king is coming, people, and with it the power struggle that will send the kingdom into chaos. Now, Driftmark is the home of the sea snake, Corlys Velaryon, and his castle is known as High Tide, which is where he resides. Viserys is headed there to formally ask for the bonding of marriage between Rhaenyra and Laenor Velaryon. Once he arrives at the castle, he is not greeted by Lord Corlys, which is seen as an insult. You can see Laenor and his buddy crossing swords, the steel kind, not the other meaning. At least, not yet. Now, the Castle of High Tide is said to house many treasures that Corlys the Sea Snake has gathered in his exploits. This is mentioned in the book. And we could actually even see here the Mask of the Crab Feeder, which is a cool little detail they added in. Corlys and Viserys discuss the marriage proposal, and Rhaenys enters, shaking the hand of her cousin and subtly realizing, whoa, he's missing 2 fingers. When asked about the proposal, Corlys is clearly happy, but wants details surrounding the succession. No matter how excited he might be, he still understands that there will be some drama surrounding this. After some negotiating, they shake hands and all is well. One thing to note is that Viserys coughs throughout this entire scene and continues to be foreshadowing of his impending health crisis. We then cut to Rhaenyra and Laenor walking along the beach and discussing the situation they find themselves in. These two have known each other since they were kids, and Rhaenyra clearly has a working gaydar. She must know Jim Halpert.
Jim told me you could buy gaydar online.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, probably. He didn't tell the truth a lot.
Let's call him, get the website.
They ultimately come to an agreement that they could do their duty to the realm, marry, and then have their side pieces to make love to. A gumar, if you will.
I know you got a new gomar. What can I say, huh?
On the ship voyage back home, Rhaenyra looks on and feels a sense of focused optimism towards the real possibility of her becoming the first queen of Westeros. Sir Criston Cole approaches her and is enamored, and asks Rhaenyra to run away with him. Really puts himself out here. Rhaenyra seems conflicted about it, but suddenly realizes in this moment that she wants it. She wants to be queen more than anything else. And she tells Criston Cole of her and Laenor's arrangement, and he's offended. He's upset that he's soiled the one thing he's worked so hard to achieve, the white cloak of the Kingsguard. He feels purposeless and without honor. He feels a marriage to her might actually make his actions of having sex with her forgivable. It's a sad moment for him, and he seems torn up while Rhaenyra is focused and a bit cold towards his advances. Now, unlike the last few episodes where there were major time jumps, this one seems to be happening not long after the end of episode 4, as we see Alicent speaking with her father Otto just before he leaves King's Landing. And it's a really important scene here. With Otto leaving, Alicent will be all alone in King's Landing, and she'll be forced to grow up and be independent. And we really see her come into her own in this entry. Otto explains that
time is coming, Alicent. Either you prepare Aegon to rule, or you cleave to Rhaenyra and pray for her mercy.
once the king dies, which won't be too long now, if Rhaenyra is made queen, then the kingdom will be divided on accepting her as the first queen. Sides will be drawn. More specific to Alicent, he warns that if that were the case and her rule is challenged, then it's in Rhaenyra's best interest for the other potential heirs in question to be snuffed out, referring to the baby Aegon and Alicent's other children. This has Alicent pretty shaken up, and it's an idea she hadn't thought about to this point. It really leads her on this quest to explore the idea that Rhaenyra might have been lying to her this whole time. And her cause is pushed even further towards this as we cut to the Weirwood tree and see Larys Strong, who's one of the new hand of the king's sons, and he tells her about the Grand Maester personally delivering the Plan T to Rhaenyra's room and is clearly trying to stir up some drama. He says,
"One is never invited to speak, one learns instead to observe."
And this is actually true in the books as well. In there, he's known as a manipulative character and described as often listening in on conversations and spying. We actually saw him all the way back in episode 3 when he sits down with the women during the hunt. After snitching about the Plan T, this makes Alicent think that Rhaenyra really did sleep with Daemon, and this leads Alicent to summon Sir Criston. She's looking to find out what side she's on. She questions Criston Cole. She questions
Today, Junior?
She questions Criston Cole. That's a tongue twister. About Rhaenyra. And he admits to it, thinking she was talking about him and Rhaenyra, but she was actually talking about Daemon and Rhaenyra. And upon hearing his confession, she is shook, but she is also focused. He begs for mercy honorably and is surprised when she says he can go. The anxiety and uncertainty of what will come next is certainly eating at him for a bit, and we'll see this boil over later in the episode. Speaking of later in the episode, let's now discuss that wedding. No, not that wedding. The one from this episode. So we see House Velaryon arrive at King's Landing for the start of the ceremonies, and Corlys arrives to a grand entrance. Laenor's lover Joffrey, no, not that one. Come on, man. Looks over at Rhaenyra like, girl, that is my man. People start shuffling in, and after everyone has had their seat, Viserys begins to give his opening remarks and thanking everybody for coming, until a very key moment in the development of Alicent Hightower's character occurs.
Alicent doesn't like to be observed. She is the observer, but she comes in and she holds the room. For once, she looks like the queen.
Rebellious, strong, powerful.
This is a very important scene, as her showing up in a green dress indicates she has come to realize the power she has, and wears the color as a statement. When the green banner is flown in Old Town, it means they are to go to war. And that's exactly what I think Alicent aims to show here. I am the queen, I am powerful, I have dirt on you bitches, and my son will be the next king. In the books, there's a lot mentioned about how those who will support Rhaenyra's claim to the throne will wear black, and those who support Alicent's son Aegon will wear green. We see her greeted by her uncle from Old Town, and he explains Old Town stands with you. The seeds of war are planted here, guys. Sides are now drawn. Now, it wouldn't be a Westerosi wedding party if there wasn't a little drama. So, as the new couple dance and everyone eats and drinks, the gossip about Rhaenyra's lover continues. Joffrey has a keen eye and realizes that her secret lover is Sir Criston, and the last mistake he ever makes is approaching him. At this point, Sir Criston is a broken man. He feels like he has no honor left and nothing to show for it. So approaching him and discussing dirty secrets, not the best move here, bro. The fight breaks out, and all hell breaks loose. Everyone at the high table looks on, trying to make sense of what's happening, what's going on down there. And we find out Sir Criston is absolutely obliterating Joffrey's face. During the chaos, Rhaenyra is carried away, Viserys' nose starts to bleed, and Laenor is left stunned as his lover is killed right in front of him. The best way to interpret what's happening here is the fact that there is tons of symbolism involved in the undertones of the scene. Viserys' nose bleeding is a sign of his failing health and leads to his collapse at the end. The bride and groom are doomed to a bad marriage from the start, as both of their lovers are essentially gone by the end, so that compromise they made earlier in the episode, that's all BS now. And the realm is slowly but surely getting split in two, and this fight will soon be much more than one solely fought with fists. The doomed marriage symbolism is shown even further, as during the ceremony itself we see Laenor is a wreck, Rhaenyra is conflicted, and Viserys collapses, all while a rat looks on, picking at the bloody remains. Moving forward, now that sides are drawn, one important thing I'd like to mention is the scene where Alicent stops Sir Criston from killing himself, samurai style. These two will most likely become allies in the wars to come, I have no doubt about that. As for my review, I think this show is at its best, and Game of Thrones before it, when you can see the subtext and symbolism of what's going on, rather than only what's being said. The show is like one big chess match happening in real time and continues to surprise me and leave me with a smile on my face. Full milk bone for this one, Ness agrees. Overall, really enjoying the show, and I hope you're enjoying the breakdowns. Please make sure to like and subscribe, and let me know down in the comments if you're excited for next week's episode, where there's going to be a much larger time jump. Thanks for stopping by, Bag End, as usual. We're always so happy to have you here. Have a great rest of your day, guys. Baggins out.